16 minutes after the hour now, and a Fox News alert. Breaking overnight, North Korea reportedly on the brink of another ballistic missile test. Former senior CIA intelligence officer Tony Shaffer is set to meet with intelligence officials later this month, but he joins us first to discuss this escalating threat. Good morning to you, Colonel Shaffer. So basically, I want you to break down what happened with regard to the hydrogen bomb and how that compares to what we consider a run-of-the-mill atomic bomb. In other words, why is this so much more severe?
Yeah. Simply put, it's an order of magnitude more severe regarding the explosive effects. We figured out in the early 50s how to essentially do what we call a hydrogen enhancement to a weapon. We don't know for a fact that the North Koreans have mastered this. I mean, again, it's a two-stage explosion, a fission-fusion explosion. The fission goes off, fusion hits in. It is a order of magnitude. Hiroshima was 15 kilotons. We're talking about upwards of 100 to 1,000 kilotons above that. So this is a very severe, very important step forward if they've mastered it. The components look about right regarding the photographs, but we just don't know at this point.
Right. So what does the U.S. response need to be?
Needs to be a very stern, looking them square in the eye, saying this continued menacing of the allies in the region and us is not acceptable. I mean, we have to now accept the fact that Hawaii and other elements of the eastern seaboard could be hit by a nuclear weapon, and more importantly, the homeland could be hit easily by what we call an EMP, electromagnetic pulse weapon. Right. North Koreans have acknowledged the fact they're looking at this for the first time. And again, your audience can Google this. Something called Starfish Prime back in 1962 was our first experience with it, where this blast over the Pacific took out the power grid in Hawaii. It would be far worse today because everything we do now is electronically based, and it would be very severe.
I'm going to ask this question,
sure.
and I'm sitting in a chair here in New York, so I am not obviously involved. You heard all the pundits say, you know, there's no good solution here. But at the end of the day, we need to come up with a solution. Right. What is that solution going to be?
Well, the solutions that have been tried in the past were feckless. Look, we've been on this path since 1994 and the so-called framework agreement by President Clinton. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is insane, and we have to stop that. So what we have to do now is lay out what we are not willing to accept and then enforce it. John Bolton spoke before about the fact that the Iranians are involved. We need to hold the Iranians accountable. People talk about how the North Korean program has been basically expanded quickly. It's because of the money we gave the Iranians got sent over to the North Koreans. Next, China. We got to hold China completely accountable. Look, this is one of those areas where we actually have more leverage over China to do the right thing than we think. We need to return, this may sound strange, we need to return manufacturing to the United States and tell China, look, either you help us or we don't need you. In a lot of areas right now you're making money. So we've got to look at all the things we can do to influence the North Koreans. The Chinese, the Iranians are both things we should do. And then most importantly, to basically make it very clear, the moment anything happens to any interest, you hit something, you hit Guam, you hit Japan, you're going to suffer a big price, and that price is going to be paid by Kim Jong-un. He personally will have to pay that price.
Lieutenant Colonel Shaffer, final question.
Sure.
How does this end?
Well, it ends eventually, someday, I believe, with the ultimate resolution of the two states, North and South Korea coming back together. Look, this is how East and West Germany finally came back together, and I think ultimately they would end it. The question becomes, how do you do that? And that should be our long-term objectives. With that said, in the meantime, we cannot stand for a madman, menacing people around him and potentially using nuclear weapons to giving them third parties, terrorists, and other folks. It's not acceptable. One
of the most complicated international situations our country has ever faced. Sir, as always, a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time this morning.